Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, in honor of the amazing news in the Raid Digest that came out just on Friday, that we're gonna have permanent super raids in Ice Golem, Spiders, Dragon Slayer, Fire Knight, and to my surprise and delight, Sand Devil's Necropolis and Phantom Shogun's Grove. Basically all 6 of these dungeons on the far right of the dungeon map are going to get permanent super raids in the next patch. They will always be up, which is fantastic. Joining the ranks of permanent super raids in Faction Wars and permanent super raids in Doom Tower as well. So yeah, keep it up. This is great. Permanent super raids in campaign or Minotaurs. Maybe next. Maybe the potion keeps. We'll have to see. Sorry, I just got very distracted. My dog started barking like crazy when I started recording. My girlfriend's gone off to the States for a week. Hello. So this one. Hello. Oh, yes. Oh, you're a big old dog. This one. Wanting all the attention, aren't you? You are wanting all of the attention. What's going on up here? You say hello to the video. Yeah. Are we best friends? Yeah. Yeah. Ah. Boop, boop. Fish dogs. Alright, hopefully it won't interrupt the video too much. Well, what was I even saying? I totally lost track. Super raids are great in the dungeons. Let's go. And we're gonna rank though basically every single boss in the game. I think we should rank every single one. I've been lazy. We're just gonna use a text-based tier list. Good old notepad coming in clutch. We've got there we go. D tier at the bottom, and all the way up to S tier for every different bit of content. Let's start off with probably the first bosses you're gonna fight, which are gonna be in the campaign. Look, I'm just gonna put all of these together. We're not gonna rank each campaign boss individually. So starting stuff off, let's put everything, if I can spell campaign correctly, let's put everything into like B tier to start, and then we can repurpose it as we want. Do we move it up? Do we move it down? It's kind of like how I like to do tier lists. For campaign, they're pretty underwhelming, right? Most of these campaign bosses, you probably couldn't even say what they do. That being said, I think for a new player, having, a boss stage in there to mix it up is actually kind of fun. Like they're sort of mini bosses when you start the game. I think they achieve that pretty well. Even when you move up to Nightmare, like honestly, most of these bosses do nothing. The only one that probably stands out is the Mortu Macabre as the final Nightmare boss. So they're pretty bland. They're really underutilized. They don't do much. It's tricky. I would almost be tempted to put these in the D tier, but I'm not going to do that because I don't feel like they make the game worse. I think they're decent mini bosses for when you start out the game. They don't make the game better, but I don't think that they really necessarily make it worse. I think C tier for campaign, it also, C for campaign, it works out. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. I'm happy enough with that. I think D tier would be the other alternative. I really don't see campaign bosses going higher. So not a great start. Let's go in with actually, I think let's start with some strong picks. Let's go for the 4 key dungeons, the 4 core. Let's go for it. Ice Golem, Dragon, Spider, and Fire Knight. Well, let's start with, I think, the worst one, which is Ice Golem. We will break the dungeons into both normal and hard difficulties, by the way. So Ice Golem, normal. I am not a big fan of this one, to be honest. So let's see. Ice Golem. We'll put hard in as their own thing. I think I put Ice Golem in the C tier. I think it's a C tier content. Let me actually move me to the other side. That probably makes more sense, seeing as all the text is on the left-hand side. Yeah, I think Ice Golem is just very frustrating, right? If you do too much damage to him, he does his retaliation hit. That spawns in the ads that can slow you down. It's a slow dungeon to run with killing the ads. All of the animations of his retaliation hits. It's just clunky to bypass that as well. Like you can bypass it with like poisons and burns and stuff, but that's really clunky to set up. Like enemy max HP, if you hit him hard enough, will trigger multiple retaliations in a row. It's just, I think it's not a great dungeon. I think there's some fun ideas in there. It's okay. You can do some interesting things, but no, I think that Ice Golem unfortunately goes into C tier. I think it's annoying, right? And especially when you try to do the dungeon faster, it becomes really annoying to try to speedrun the dungeon. It kind of sucks. Moving on to Dragon, normal Dragon. This is a tricky one for me to rank as well. So dragon. Dragon, dragon, dragon. It is, I mean, there's no question. It's a very straightforward dungeon. It's super easy. It's very straightforward. That being said, I'm tempted to put dragon in the A tier. I think I probably will. I think it probably goes A because it does what it seeks to do well, right? It's an early game dungeon. It's easy, it's accessible, but there's still, a few basic mechanics that go into it. Like, oh, the dragon he's built up, he's got that sort of extra health bar. He's going to do his big attack. I break the extra health bar. I'm safer. I don't. We're going to need more defenses in there. It's pretty cool. And you can use poisons. You can use direct damage, max HP. It's quite flexible. So I think it actually achieves what it sets out to do pretty well as being like just a great sort of intro dungeon that actually has mechanics that aren't too punishing or anything, but you kind of notice them and play around them a bit. I think it's actually all right. So dragon, I think, is actually fine. In fact, better than fine. I'd move it up a bit to A. I think, again, arguably you could put it in B, but I'm going to put it in A. Spider, normal. Ooh, okay. So spider. That's a tricky one to rank as well. Where do we put spider? So spider dungeon. One thing I like about it is that, for the lower stages, you can just go in with raw damage and just kill all the spiderlings, and that's a viable strategy. Then when you go up higher, then it becomes more about turn meter control. And so I actually think this is quite funny looking back on this. Like stage 18 took me 9 minutes to beat. Then we come down to stage 19 and 20, and we're down to 11 seconds, right? That's a crazy swing just in terms of like how long the different things took and like which stages actually had optimized teams. That's quite funny looking back on it. But yeah, it becomes more about, burns. You can obviously use max HP nukes on stage 20 or lower, and turn meter control. I actually think there's quite a lot of interesting stuff happening in Spider. There's quite a lot of different strategies. I mean, you can even do something like have Drexstar in as a force affinity tank to bait the spiderlings, or you can CC the spiderlings. There's a lot of stuff there. So I actually think this is a really good dungeon. I think I put it in A. One of the downsides for it is if you don't have AoE HP burn, it can be quite certainly the higher stages become really tedious. They become a problem. But yeah, I think I'd probably put it in A. I mean, I would almost, if you wanted to put Spider in S tier, it's also a really fast dungeon, which gets big thumbs up for me. You could put Spider in S tier, and I probably wouldn't complain, but I'm a big fan of Spider. Then we come to Fire Knight, normal. I'm a really big fan of this dungeon as well. I think this is a really difficult dungeon. It was probably the hardest one. You can see 12 minute, 17-minute run. That's pretty brutal. I think that Fire Knight succeeds, though, very much so, as being that sort of beginning really difficult dungeon where you need to have, lots of multi-hits to take down the shield. You need turn meter and speed control to keep the shield down and get your damage in. You need some survivability if the shield goes back up. Yeah, I think it actually works really well as that. Like, Fire Knight. Do we put Fire Knight in A or an S? I'm actually going to put it in S tier. I think I will. I think Fire Knight, this might be crazy. You might disagree. I think it's S, maybe A, though. I think it is like the definitive turn meter control boss, right? When it comes to being all about turn meter control, speed control, all of that, I think this boss nails it. It does a good job, and it brings in like ally attack, counter attack, those types of strats as well, which is fun. I think Fire Knight is actually really good. Yeah, I like that one a lot. I think it's great. All right, let's swing over. Let's do the potion keeps then. Let's put all these together in one. Let's finish potion keeps. Let's finish off this dungeons page, shall we? Put them all in one. Honestly, the potion keeps are pretty crappy, right? Like, if you said, nope, I'll give you $1,000 if you can tell me exactly what the arcane keep does, or the void keep, or the force, I would not know. I could not tell you what these dungeons do. Like, that's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Spirit keep, that's the one that heals. So that's like an actual strat, but it's kind of terrible. Magic keep, that puts up the big shield and all the buffs. So again, you need to like have buff strip or removal or something. But it's just kind of annoying to deal with. Like at least Spirit and Magic, I'd rate them as better. They're probably the most annoying because they're harder, but at least they've got some character. The other ones just kind of suck. There's also the fact that these are let's be real. These are dungeons that if they were not in the game would not be any worse. In fact, it'd be better. If it was just like, you know what? Tons of pots. You're never going to run out of ascension pots, which is kind of half the way it works now anyway between events and clan boss, right? I almost never farm these, almost ever. I'm not missing out, right? I'm not missing out on anything. Also, they only open up like one per day, which is just annoying. It just feels like sort of an artificial gatekeeping thing. I don't think there's really much gameplay there that's any much good. So honestly, potion keeps. I'm gonna put potion keeps in the D tier, as just they make multiple crimes. They are bland like campaign, but they're also kind of tedious. Like Ice Golem, it combines sort of the worst things of both in there. Either being bland or tedious. And yeah, if you just remove these, game's fine. Like you just combine them into one dungeon, right? And just, you know, have it drop equal to running each of these once. Run the dungeon. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like this doesn't need to be here. Doesn't need to be here. Iron Twins Fortress. Let's talk about that. Ooh, Iron Twins. Okay, Iron Twins. Oh, potion keeps. Let's take those out. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Spider, potion keeps. Iron Twins. Iron Twins, I think this does an actual better job than the Affinity dungeons of having the Affinity actually matter. Like, that's actually kind of interesting with the boss Affinity changing. I think that's a positive. The rewards are obviously a bit underwhelming for sure for the energy that you put in. Limited keys per day. Again, it's a little tedious to have to run it multiple times. Like, this would be a good one for super raids as well, just to get it done fast. Or just run it once. Like, just run it once per day. You know, one key, no energy cost, like a clan boss, and be better. I feel like this is Demon Lord clan boss, but not as good, really. You know, it's just a boss. It scales up, gets more difficult as the fight goes on, like the clan boss. It smacks you with lots of AoE damage, like the clan boss. But like it's harder. You can't use multiple keys to beat the top stage. It's just yeah, it's like clan boss, but kind of worse. It's got cool animations. I like the idea as well if you could, you know, build resistance and resist the debuff that he's doing. And there's interesting stuff. It has the Ice Golem thing in there as well, which is really annoying, where he removes all the debuffs. And to kill him quickly, you kind of just have to exploit Geomancer. Unkillable teams, which, you know, you kind of need those as well for a lot of people. I personally don't use an unkillable team, but I do use Geomancer to do it quickly, because without Geomancer, you know, how do you do it quickly? The boss keeps cleansing off his debuffs. I think this boss honestly kind of sucks. I'm going to put Iron Twins in the C tier. There's some things I like about it, but there's an awful lot I don't like about it. You know, this is definitely C tier bosses are things that are like, oh, we've come in and we're going to improve them. I'd be like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, Spider shouldn't be in B tier. I've actually not put anything in B tier yet. That's interesting. B tier is empty. Maybe my strategy is bad. But yeah, Iron Twins, that goes into C. Now we come over to the Minotaur's Labyrinth. So I can definitely understand the frustration of like the drops, the rewards for this, that, you know, you farm a lot in Minotaurs. But that being said, I actually like Minotaur quite a lot. What I think is interesting about it is it's obviously very easy, but by its nature, right, you want to do this with kind of as few champions maxed as possible, and you want to do it as quickly as possible. And I think that presents a quite fun natural challenge of like, oh, how can I put in the highest damage champion with the least defensive stats, but they can still survive everything? And the Minotaur himself has that whole vulnerability phase like you can trigger eventually as well. I think it's a fine dungeon. I think for what it is, for like an early game dungeon that's quick enough to farm, and there's sort of interesting, simple builds to do it, like bringing in your champions that you're mastering up. I actually think Minotaur is okay. I put Minotaur actually in the A tier. I actually think, again, like Dragon, I think it's very similar to Dragon actually in my ranking. Like, it's very basic boss, but it does the basic boss in a good way, right? Yeah, I think so. I actually like Minotaur quite a bit. So there you go. Minotaur, I'd give it an A. Again, this would definitely benefit from super raids, or actually probably would benefit more from like up to stage 20, maybe even up to a stage 25 or something. Like spend more energy and get more scrolls at once. Something like that would be cool. Yeah, like they could improve it for sure. There's room for improvement, but I think the core of Minotaur is actually quite nice. Then we come over to the two newest dungeons, Sand Devils and Phantom Shogun. So let's put them both here. Sand Devil. Phantom Shogun. Let's do Sand Devil first. You guys know I am not a fan of Sand Devil at all. I think Sand Devil honestly kind of sucks. I think Plarium are aware of this. Like, we talked to the Plarium developers and they said, okay, we've seen we didn't ask them, actually. I think they just came out and said it as something they're looking into. Is they said, okay, we see with Sand Devils, most people don't fight the boss the way that we sort of intended to. That most people need to go in and cheese it, or cheesing it is the optimal strategy for them, and that's not good. That shows Plarium that they've made a mistake with designing the boss. So I thought that was actually really cool for them to come out and say it. I definitely think it's true with Sand Devil, right? It's just so punishing, right? You need to bring in sleeps, you need to bring in loads of debuffs, but then if you hit the boss too much with multi-hit, hello Dougie, if you hit the boss too much with multi-hits, right, he wakes up and everything goes wrong. It's just really awkward to build a good team for Sand Devil. Like, how the heck do you do it? For me, personally, I just cheese it with Godseeker Ninja. You know, I upgraded my team recently. It is 100% now, by the way. I somehow managed to get it working fine, or it's as close to 100% as to basically be non-issue. So moving Ninja slower helped, and Squishy, slow Ninja, and then Godseeker as slow as possible. And I removed the mastery that can remove debuffs from her if she gets hit hard. I think that was sometimes removing the decreased speed. I think you maybe still fail if she resists decreased speed twice in a row, but it's a maybe. I think, you know, you can actually get away with it most of the time. Hasn't failed for me in ages, so I'm really happy with this now. Anyway, Sand Devil sucks. That's the long short of it. Sand Devil, I don't want it removed from the game. I'm going to put it in C tier, I think. Or do I put this in D tier? You know what? Honestly, I'm going to put it in D tier. Yeah, let's be harsh. Let's go for it. Let's be harsh. I think Sand Devil sucks, right? The rewards are great, and like I'm a big fan of the new Chaos Dust. I'd love to see that in lower levels. But yeah, I this boss just sucks, right? It's not really fun to do. I think you can build a fun team if you've got Sifi and Riho Bone Spear. I think if you got the two of those champs, yeah, you can build a fun team, right? And maybe a couple of newts. Hey, then you can build a fun team, right? That can be basically 100%. But building a 100% team that can farm, it's just, nah, this boss is a big mess. It needs, I think, quite a big rework to make it enjoyable. I'm cool with the sleep thing being a thing, but I think it could do with a big rework. It really could. Phantom Shoguns, I think, is much better than that. I think this boss is fine. You know what? This is going to be my first B tier boss. Phantom Shogun, there we go. We've got ourselves a B tier boss. You know, you don't need to farm this too much because these extracts are not crazy important. It's quite nice for your crit damage amulets. That's quite nice. You know, they're decent things to have, but you don't need to go crazy about them. But I think the boss is kind of interesting, right? What I don't like about it is awakenings, right? More awakenings, lower the counter more. That just sucks. Again, that's sort of a gatekeepy type thing. It's just not super fun. Yeah, I did a video on this before. I basically use a bunch of rares because they're easy to get high awakenings on. So you can do it. And then I've got Elinarl who puts the burns. If I got her with Brimstone, it'd be much better. So I think there's some interesting things happening with this boss. It's like definitely a speed tune focused boss to get your cleanse at the right time, have it all sync up, and to have like a Phantom Shogun tank. I feel like Affinity Breaker was sort of intended to be a thing for this, but it's not actually necessary in the end. Like, I think it's okay. There's some interesting concepts here. There's some very clunky concepts here. It's an okay sort of speed tune type boss. Yeah, I think it's B tier. It's fine. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Next up then, we've got the, I'm actually going to have to get a list for these, the Faction War bosses. Let me get a list up for Faction War bosses. All right, here we go. Faction War boss skill sets. I don't know if this is an official Plarium post or just someone else. You've got a whole bunch of different color bosses. We'll probably just rank these all together, but to briefly touch on them, the blue one, AoE Fear, he revives his allies. Oh, and then he's got the ally attack, right? Yeah, I think this guy's actually quite cool. This is one of the better ones, right? You've got the two allies to the side. You kind of want to lock them down with crowd control because that ally attack is really dangerous, right? You can ignore some defense, right? And it's lots of AoE. I think that's actually quite a fun boss. This would be, I think, probably the best one. You know, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing special, but this might be a B, maybe even an A tier. No, probably a good solid B, like the blue symbol. It's quite a solid boss. Maybe even A. Yeah, the blue one is cool. The green one puts out a poison, some turn meter. AoE True Fear that can do some poisons and turn meter, puts burns on attackers. The ads on the side are putting buffs on the boss. Very average boss, like B, maybe even C, just for being kind of boring. Like, I wouldn't even know half of what this stuff does. So, like, AoE fears and doing some poisons. He can burn you. It's kind of annoying, but nothing too special. I'd say sort of a low B tier for green. Purple symbol. He's got AoE that can fear. He's got AoE that steals buffs and then transfers debuffs with a debuff spread. He can swap HP. I'll say for this boss is a frustrating one to fight, but at least he's unique. At least he's interesting. He's also, the ads can provoke and leech. That's not too important. But yeah, it's like, he's doing the debuff flippy stuff. He's flipping HP. This is an intense enough type boss. Again, I'd say this is like a good, solid B tier boss. Yeah, I'd say he's a B tier boss. He's not super fun to fight, but I mean, he stands out. He stands out as being actually, significant. The red one, he can ignore defense on the A1. He can cleanse and fear everyone with an extra. Yeah, okay, so this guy, he cleanses your debuffs and fears your... No, he fears one enemy and stuns the rest, and then he usually A1s that enemy. Sort of kills them. He gets turn meter when his HP is lost. Again, I feel like this is a B tier boss. He's simple but straightforward in that sense. I think he's cool. He can be annoying to deal with because, you have to sort of bring a reviver. It's very hard to keep someone alive with the turn meter he's getting and that. I'd say he's fine. And then yellow, 2 hits with provoke, AoE True Fear. He can freeze attackers. This one is, I'd say, more C tier. It's quite annoying, this one. Just because it slows you down, like just the True Fears and the freezes, the provokes. Very, very easy. Definitely C tier. Probably too easy. It's just annoying crowd control stuff. I'd say on the whole, probably the faction war bosses, I think they generally fall in B. I think there's a couple that you could put into C. There's a couple that might even make it up to A. I think it's actually a solid enough B tier. In fact, I would put them probably above Phantom Shogun. I think that they're probably overall better than Phantom Shogun. You've got a variety there with 5 different types of boss. You know what? I think Faction Wars is quite solidly decent. Solidly decent, better than Shogun overall. So there you go. Ooh, clan boss up next. The 2 clan bosses. Demon Lord. You know what? We don't even need to put them in B. In my opinion, Demon Lord and Hydra both go in the S tier, and I think that these are both better than Fire Knight as well. Let's just put them in there. I'll put Fire Knight at the bottom of S tier. Demon Lord and Hydra, for me, they're both going into S. Demon Lord, you might think it's funny in the sense I'm putting in S because I basically never do any Demon Lord videos on this channel. I just feel like, it's more early game stuff, and all the other content creators have Demon Lord totally on lockdown. I don't really feel like I have anything interesting or unique to add. I think Demon Lord, he's quite a simple boss, right? Big AoE hits, scales up, he gets tougher as the fight goes on. It's like Iron Twins, but more simple. But it's simple, it's straightforward. What I love about it is, like, I can come into Ultra Nightmare, and let's say I can't do it in 1 key. I can, but let's say I couldn't. I can use 2 keys, right? And these are regenerating every few hours. I can use 2. I can use 3. I could use 4 keys. I can do it if I want to. Iron Twins doesn't have that. It makes this much more accessible. Big variety of interesting team comps you can build, from killable to unkillable, bringing in poisons, direct damage, loads of cool stuff. I think this has been one of the best areas of the game. I think it's one of the most loved areas of the game. For me, I will say I'm not super interested in it. Like, I built my team. I've been playing the game for over 3 years now. I built my team... Well, actually, I got an unkillable team up and running maybe 4 or 5 months into the game, something like that. Maybe even earlier, maybe 3 months. I got lucky with an early man-eater pull, and I could do a single man-eater unkillable team pretty early on. Seeker was the first epic I ever pulled. And then I built my current team, which is this, like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something, like probably I think before I became a content creator or something like that, or very early on, and I've just used that since. There's not much gameplay there, but I think this is, and progressing through the difficulty levels, I think it's pretty iconic for the game. For me, it's the top of S tier. Hydra is also at the top of S. I'll put Demon Lord a bit higher. Obviously I much prefer Hydra overall. I've got more gameplay out of it, but I think more people prefer Demon Lord, so we'll respect that. But Hydra, I think, is fantastic. You've got the rotations. always mixing it up a little bit. I think the randomness of Hydra can be very frustrating, there's no question, but I think the variety of champions you can bring in, I think there's a huge variety of different team builds you can use as well. I think there's some stuff in the game that's still a bit lacking, like block buff champions are still a bit lacking. Definitely Perfect Veil and ways to deal with the Head of Torment are extremely lacking. Even still, that's something that they've never really got quite right. Yeah, I think, I will say there's certainly room potentially for improvement in Hydra. There was, more heads that were potentially going to come that never came. But for me, I think the variety, I think there's a huge range of difficulty in Hydra. I think the amount of champions you can bring in, it just, for me, has added more life to this game than any other bit of content. More champions, more gameplay, more thought. Yeah, there's so much that Hydra has brought. For me, it's S tier. Then we come to Doom Tower. We'll finish with Amus. I'm going to fight Amus and do a video on him tomorrow, I think. It's Doom Tower. Let's go. This is the first rotation, actually, so pretty appropriate. Let's put them all in B for now. So we've got Magma Dragon. We've got Nether Spider, Scarab, Frost Spider. Let's do these. Magma Dragon, first of all. Magma Dragon probably goes... I don't know. He's very inoffensive. He's very much like the campaign. I'll put him higher up in C. I think that's fine. Magma Dragon reminds me a lot of campaign. Very easy, very inoffensive. Doesn't really make the game worse, though. He's got cool animations. If your provokes aren't perfect, he's doing some interesting stuff with placing the hex and hitting hard. Like, he's an okay boss, but he's probably a bit too easy, I would say. Ends up being not super interesting. So yeah, Magma Dragon, I think he's... I put him, I'm going to put him at the top of C tier. I'm going to put him ahead of campaign. So I think that he's more interesting than campaign, fairly inoffensive. These other C tier things, if they did more with them, I'd be really happy. And D tier, I think, would need fairly big reworks to be interesting. Magma Dragon could almost be B tier in the sense they could just leave him and I'd be fine with it. So you know what? Let's do that. Let's put him in B. We're all over the place here. Magma Dragon, you're in B tier now. He's back where we started. It's just gone full circle. Nether Spider, actually a really fun boss. I'm going to put Nether Spider maybe up in A. I think Nether Spider's great, right? Bring in healing champions, cleansing champions, you survive the stuff. Single target damage, perhaps, or crowd control to lock down the spiderlings. I actually think Nether Spider's really good. That's one of the better bosses in the game. I'm going to put it above Minotaur. I'm going to put it above Minotaur. I think it's fun, making healing relevant. There's not a ton of bosses in here where healing is super duper relevant. Nether Spider does that. I think it's cool. Yeah, it's a great boss. Scarab boss. This has been very much reinforced to me. I always thought this boss was D tier. I'm putting it actually at the bottom of D tier. I would have put this before Cursed City, but Cursed City has really reinforced how shitty this boss is. I think the problem with Scarab is that it really relies on... I actually got the order right. That's fun. Scarab really relies on... I cheese it in Doom Tower, It's that silly. Blood Shield accessories are a huge thing for this. And the Destroy set is a huge thing for this. Both are really awkward. Again, does it make the game better? You could really... the Destroy set has some uses, but honestly, you could come in and say, you know what? We're going to get rid of the whole Scarab Shield thing. And we're going to delete this Destroy set from the game. Does that make the game worse? No. I think removing those things from the game actually would clean it up a bit and make it more accessible. So that for me makes it D tier. I just think it's an unnecessary mechanic. Destroy just doesn't do much in the game. You just don't need it there. You could just have it not be there. It's fine. Yeah, Blood Shield accessories you only get from Clan v Clan. They really clean up Scarab. It's just quite annoying. Shield champions are kind of tough to come by for this. It can steal your buffs as well. I think there's just too much synergy almost in what he's got. You need some really specific things. I just think it's really awkward. I do not enjoy this boss. This is very obvious in the Cursed City where you're coming in and it's you can easily have no shield champions that are appropriate and you're going oh, okay, this is just going to take forever. Or I've got to re-gear someone in Destroy set to do this. It's just tedious. It's really tedious. This boss really sucks. Frost Spider. I'd say Frost Spider is, for me, it's a B tier boss. I'm going to actually leave Frost Spider right there. I think it's fine. There is some gameplay, right? But I think it's more kind of annoying. I think the little spiderling, cleansing it off is quite annoying, but you need lots of accuracy for it. That's okay. Burns are effective. That's cool as well. It's quite annoying the decreased defense and weakens get removed by the little spiderling on the right-hand side. That sucks. I think it's a fine boss, right? It's fairly inoffensive, I think, in that sense. You know, it's a big spider. He hits you hard. You need to heal through and survive it. You need to burn. Blocking revive or killing it with burn is a bit clunky, but it's doable. So yeah, I put it in B tier. I think there's some unique gameplay, certainly with the block revives and the burns. Like there's some gameplay there. It's not major engaging, but I think it's fine. Like this sort of a middle of the road boss. Yeah, with the rest of this stuff where I'm like, you can leave all those as they are and it's just fine. They're not my favorite boss. They're not like unpleasant to fight. They're just fine. They're fine. After that then, ooh, we've got, let me see, Griffin. Is it Ian or is it, oh, I don't know, probably. And Eternal Dragon. You know what? I actually think Griffin is super fun. Griffin is a great boss. I might even put Griffin in S. I might put Griffin in S. You know what? I think I'm going to do that at the bottom of the S tier, Griffin. I think it's quite a fun boss to fight. You know, he strips off your buffs and he smacks you. He strips off his debuffs and he throws them back. You know, he ramps up over time as well, but in quite a fun way. And he's not crazy difficult either in that sense. I think he's cool. You know, there's fun gameplay there to be had. Does he go S tier? You know, let's maybe put him at the top of A. Let's put him at the top of A. Like, he's not super fun, but he's quite fun. He's quite fun. I think Griffin is a good fight. It's a very good boss, in fact. He's the 4th best boss according to my rankings. I think that sort of fits. Yeah, he's a good fun boss. You know, I'm actually going to put regular spider above dragon as well. Now I think about it, I'm going to do that. Oh, we need to cover the hard mode dungeons then. Of course. Haha, I knew I was missing something. So Griffin's fine. Eternal Dragon, I think, is also a really solid boss. Yeah, I think both of these were kind of a win. This was a win rotation. Rotation 2. Eternal Dragon, great new boss. He can lock you out of skills. You know, he's summoning in ads. You can kill the ads or you cannot. But then he gets empowered. He's quite fun, actually. I put Eternal Dragon up pretty high as well. I'll put him below Dragon. I think that's interesting. Maybe a little reliant on building champions with resist, which is, you know, a little tedious perhaps. But no, I think he's a really fun boss, actually. Yeah, he's cool and he's iconic. There's fun gameplay to play around. I think Eternal Dragon is pretty good. And then we come to the final two. We've got Bommel and we've got Dark Fae. Both of these bosses are pretty bad, I think. Bommel, I'm going to put Bommel in C tier. I put him in C tier. Let me put Iron Twins. Hey, Iron Twins above Ice Golem. Normal Ice Golem just kind of sucks. Bommel's quite annoying, though. Yeah, Bommel. He takes extra damage from bombs. That's pretty cool, but it's difficult to actually make that work. Like, you need some very, very specific champs. And yeah, you can make it work, but it's just very hard to deal with them. You know, you've got this idea of freezing the bombs so that they do less stuff. But again, that never really came through too much. I think a lot of people's approach to Bommel has simply been to cheese it and do it in the unintended way. Like for me right now, I'm doing a Nishak Vermin Lord with ally attack one-shot team. It just kills him with bombs straight up and you never have to deal with it. Before that, it was like cheesing it with multiple Vogots and stuff. It's just a cheesy boss. He's just too hard. This boss is just too hard. Again, it's just too rough with the damage, right? Stripping off your buffs and putting the irremovable bombs, the side ad bombs he spawns in. It's just all too much. Yeah, I think this boss is pretty bad. There's too much going on. Dark Fae is interesting. It is sort of turn meter again, right? Kind of like Fire Knight. It's a turn meter boss again. Just lock the boss down so it doesn't do too much. I mean, sort of the big gimmick of the fight really actually mostly is killing the duplicates of your own champions at the start of the fight. I think that's decently interesting. But it's not particularly amazing. You know, I'm going to put her maybe above Phantom Shogun. I think visually she's really cool. I think she's got unique mechanics. But it's mostly just like kill your own duplicates, which is sort of build a squishy team, and then you probably need crowd turn meter control. I think it's okay. Yeah, Dark Fae is okay. Maybe she goes above Faction War. Let's put her above Faction War bosses. Yeah, at least she's got really good rewards, so it does feel rewarding. Yeah, Dark Fae, maybe somewhere around there. Okay, and then we've got Amus and the hard mode bosses. Let's do hard mode bosses first. We've got Hard Dragon. Let's do them one by one. Hard Dragon. For me, Hard Dragon I'd say it's a B tier. It's basically normal dragon, but a bit harder. But it's very middle of the road, right? There's nothing too exciting going on. Pretty straightforward. He's got, yeah, it's basically dragon, but made more appropriate for the end game. I think it's fine, solid boss, right? Fine, solid boss. I probably put it at the top of B tier. It's sort of the definition of average hard dragon. Hard ice golem. Hard ice golem is actually all right. Hard ice golem, I think, is much better than regular ice golem because of the extra damage he takes from burns. So now you've got the whole, HP burn is the intended strategy. So you have to come in, tank through his stuff, kill him with the burn so you don't get the retaliation stuff. I think that's fine. I think part of what made this more enjoyable was the fact they gave everyone Artak, who's really good for this. That's part of it. But I think hard ice golem is fine. I think it's, challenging to survive through. Hello, Dog came in. Dog likes the idea of hard ice golem, don't you? You like hard ice golem. I think it's fairly, I'd put it probably above Dark Fae as like tank through, survive, that sort of thing. Let's put in a line break here. There we go. Who else do we have? We've got hard spider and hard fire knight. Ooh, spicy ones. Hard spider. I'm actually going to say hard spider is an S tier boss. I think hard spider is actually really fun. What's hard spider got going for it? Hard spider. Did I X off the game while I was doing this without paying attention? I guess I did. No, wait, it's over here. I've moved it. It's over here. Okay, we're fine. Hard spider is really fun. It's yes, hello. It's a really fast dungeon. I love that. Blast through really quick. Great. Good rewards as well. I think it's more fun than normal spider though, because it's just like, just kill the spiderlings, right? It's simple. Kill the spiderlings, blow up the spider. You can use burns for it, like AoE burns, that can work. You can use like max HP hits to nuke the spiderlings. Hex can be really important to nuke the spiderlings. There's fun stuff here. This is a fun dungeon to build teams for and to fight. I think it's really fun. It's like spider, but simple. Just massive AoE damage. That's a win. That's a fun dungeon to fight. And it's fast, right? No waves to get there. Fast boss. Brilliant. Love it. There we go. The faster the dungeon, the better. I guess Demon Lord and Hydra. Well, I guess seeing as you only have to fight them very irregularly, that the time you spend on them is maybe, somewhat less than farming the dungeon. It's certainly more engaging than farm. So yeah, I don't know. That's pretty good. And then, what was the other one? Hard Fire Knight. Hard Fire Knight. And then Amius would be the last one. Hard Fire Knight. Hard Fire Knight is probably a bit too hard. It's in a very weird spot. I haven't bothered coming up to beat it. I think I could beat it on stage 10 now pretty reliably. We saw that when I was looking at the new fusion, the Zenogre Blade Master. Isn't that the one? When we were looking at her, I saw actually, with my new champions, with Newt and Creodan together with like 2 ally attack champs, should be able to do Hard Fire Knight stage 10 now, but they need crazy gear. This is just very limited in terms of champs. Like, if Newt was not a fusion, this would suck. Now we've got like Creodan's come in, Neldor, we've had the other fusion. I feel like this boss, it's really hard to judge. This boss was way too hard when it came out. We simply did not have the answer for it. I mean, you could do it with like Valkyrie Cardial, but like that's obnoxious, right? To actually do this with a reasonable normal team, you basically need a bunch of the fusions and epics and stuff like that they brought out. Like, it almost feels like this boss was designed for, Newt and Creodan and Lady Mikage and all of this stuff. It almost feels, and this came out like almost a year ago. It almost feels like only now are we at the stage in the game where it actually makes sense. That's a big mark against it. At the same time, it's really tough. And it's very similar to regular Fire Knight, though. Hard Fire Knight, I'm probably going to put this probably an A, actually. I think probably an A. Maybe above Minotaur. I'm going to put Hard Fire Knight there. It's fun that I suppose that it's a big challenge. Bringing in freeze is interesting. Ally attack, that's kind of interesting. But I don't know, it's been very limited on champ. I think it's basically Fire Knight, but really limited on champions and really punishing. That's a tough one to rank. Where would you put that? I'm actually not 100% sure. I'm going to put it there for now, but I'm not 100% sure about it. But I just like the Fire Knight design. I think it's quite a fun little boss, actually, overall. Now I look at it, which is fine. I wouldn't have thought that before doing this tier list. Then finally, we've got Amius, the Lunar Archon. Amius seems fine so far. Amius seems fine. I like the fact that you only need to fight him one. I'll probably put him at the bottom of A for Amius. I think that I'm fine with that. Amius, I like that you only fight him once per month. So it's like a boss that's sort of designed to be fought on manual, but you only have to do it once per month. That's a pretty big win. Like Hydra was like, kind of designed initially, at least definitely to be fought on manual, but you have to do it 3 times a week. And they're long, like they could be 20-minute, half an hour, hour-long runs. I mean, some of you guys running on manual go for 2 or 3 hours, right? It's crazy. Amius is like, okay, it's like 10 minutes of manual play. Maybe it takes you an hour. I don't know, like every month or so. It's not so bad. So I quite like that. I do think he's way too hard on normal. Like normal difficulty Amius is almost as tough as hard difficulty Amius, which seems really wrong. Really wrong. But yeah, I think the boss visually is quite cool. He's sort of interesting with timing your abilities at the right time. I think he's okay. Yeah, he's okay. I'll put him at A just for the once a month thing. Knocks him from B tier up to A as being okay, cool. I'm okay with the boss being a little bit obnoxious if you don't have to fight that much. I'm fine with it. And there we go. I think that is everything, guys. Worst boss in the game, according to me, is the Scarab boss, followed by Sand Devil, and the Potion Keeps, which are just bad. Yeah, all these bosses have serious problems with them. Bommel arguably could go in the D tier as well. Honestly, C tier, we've got sort of a mix of kind of annoying stuff or bland. Yeah, underwhelming. B for the fairly average bosses that are decently fine. Maybe a little bit annoying to fight sometimes for sure, but decently fine. A tier are the bosses with like an interesting challenge for where you hit them in the game. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put A. A is like good challenge for where you hit it in the game. Like Dragon and Spider, Minotaur are great early game challenges. Then Amius and Hard Fire Knight are like great late game challenges. And Nether Spider, Eternal Dragon, Griffin are sort of great mid game challenges. Yeah, I think there. Then S tier, Demon Lord Hydra, the clan bosses just stand strong, in my opinion, as the best bosses in the game. And Hard Spider and regular Fire Knight. Regular Fire Knight being more of that early game, turn meter control, big challenge boss, and Hard Spider being just a fun boss. Just fast, explosive fun. And there you go. That is my tier list. Let me know, what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? This could be a divisive one, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Where's the dog? The dog says goodbye. There's the dog. The dog says goodbye. And good night, apparently. See you all soon. Goodbye.